In this video I will talk about how you can control a dial layout from a script. If you don't know what a dial layout is, I recommend watching the custom layouts video first. So let's start with loading a custom layout. You can do that either in the editor or by using the layout action. I have created two variations of the built-in fader layout, one with a larger fader and one with a smaller fader, just to have some visible difference. And I have a small script that will toggle between these layouts. So if I press the dial, you see that the layout is changed and the configuration in the editor is also changed. The default option will load the built-in layout. There is also a reset option, but I will return to that when you know what a layout variable is. So let's see how you can control objects and properties in the layout. This is the object for the title field from the fader layout file. Each object is defined as a block of properties, where the key property keeps the name of the object, and that name is used from the plugin and from your script to access the object. To access a specific property, you add the property name as an extension. The value property, for instance, for a text object keeps the text that should be displayed in the text field. So if you create a variable with the .value extension, whatever you store in that variable will be displayed in the text field. You can see from this image that both the .value extension and the name without extension both access the value property, so don't use both in the same script. I recommend always using the extension names, but if you have a script where the only property you access is the value property, you can use the shortcut without the property name if you want to. It is important to know that the key, type and rect properties are read-only and cannot be changed runtime. Trying to do so will probably cause the layout to be rejected. It's a pity that a rect property cannot be changed runtime, since that prevents you from resizing or moving objects. With this script, I want to highlight a number of important points. When I rotate the dial, it will display the dial value as text, and when I press the dial, it will toggle between the large and small fader layouts. So when I rotate the dial, it shows the value as text. The first thing I want to mention is that if we look at the configuration of the dial, it is configured to display the text My Title in the title field, but that is not what is displayed. The plugin actually prepares to send the text My Title to the value property, but since the script sets another content in that property, that is what is sent to the dial display. That is always the case. Every time when the plugin and the script accesses the same property, the script wins. The second thing to note is that even if we access the title field in the display, the title field in the editor is not changed. And that is because we send the text directly to the dial display, bypassing everything that the plugin has to do with it. If I continue to rotate the dial up to 10, it will display this is a very high number, just to highlight the fact that the plugin always calculates the font size to fit the content in the available space if possible. If you don't want that to happen, you must explicitly set a fixed font size. So if I add this action to the first press command, it will set a fixed font size when the large fader layout is loaded. So if I press the dial to load that one, and then I rotate to 10, you see that the text is no longer scaled to fit in the available space. Now you may think that if I switch layout to the small layout, the font size would be recalculated, but that is not the case. It's still the same. And that is because the script variable still has the same content. So if we look at the script variables, you see that the font size variable is still there, and it still has the value 25. And since both layouts have the same object with the same name, the value will be applied to both layouts. So now we have three problems. What if I want the font size to be dynamic again? And what if I want the text to be as defined in the editor? And what if I don't want these values to be applied when I switch to another layout? And that is when the reset option comes into play. You can reset values at three levels. You can reset a specific property, or you can reset all properties for a specific object, and you can reset all objects in a layout. So let's say I want to reset the font size when I switch to the small layout. Then I can add a reset action to that press command. Now if I switch to the small layout, you will see that the font size variable will be deleted. And the dynamic font size is back. And when I switch to the large layout, the font size variable is created again, and the font size is fixed to 25. Now let's say I want to reset everything for that object. What I can do is simply remove the extension and have the reset on the object name. And now if I go to the smaller layout, both variables are deleted. And the title as defined in the editor is displayed. The final option is to add the reset option to the layout command, like this. In this case, when the small layout is loaded, it will delete all variables that maps to an object in the new layout. When you reset a layout variable, one of three things will happen with the corresponding property on the display. If the plugin has prepared some content for the property, as for the title field we saw earlier, that content will be used. If the plugin hasn't prepared any content for the property, the value from the layout file will be used. And finally, if the property is not defined in the layout file, the content remains unchanged as set by the now deleted variable, since the plugin doesn't know what else to do. I would like to add some words about setting font properties. If you look at the layout file, the font property consists of two sub-properties for the size and weight. You can set the size using the font size extension, the weight using the font weight extension, or both values at the same time using the font extension, in which case the first value is the size and the second value is the weight. And finally, some words on troubleshooting. If you are doing something the Stream Deck software doesn't like, you will probably end up with an empty dial display or a dial display only showing the action icon. If that's the case, please check the troubleshooting page on the website or the last bit of the custom layouts video where I talk about troubleshooting. That's all for this update. Thanks for watching.